I want to set people free from guilt and shame over not exercising and say, of course, you don't exercise because your body knows it's not a good exchange, even if you want it to be. How about you make it a good exchange? So then you'll want to do it. It's pretty straightforward. And when people do it, it is life-changing.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State podcast. I'm your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD in performance and longevity expert. We have another awesome guest on today. You guys all know him as the Father of Biohacking. And on today's podcast, we talk about the power of laziness, actually how you get more results with less effort. And his new book, Smarter, Not Harder. It's none other than Dave Asprey. You're going to want to listen in on today's podcast. But if you are new to the podcast, welcome in. This podcast is really about the tools, the techniques, the tactics from the thought leaders all over the world as to how to become our very best self, how to have optimal health, how to have longevity, how to have performance, how to nourish the relationships in our life. And so if you're new to the podcast, welcome. Please hit subscribe. If you are a loyal listener, welcome back. Thank you for allowing this podcast to be a success. If you haven't already, please help this show grow by going to ratethispodcast.com/thrivestate and leave us a 5-star review. It will help this message get to more people. And if you haven't already, you might have known that the second edition of my book, Thrive State, has launched in April 11. That's right, 411. New information went out. We really talk about a couple of things. Why did I come up with the second edition? Well, I did so because as we were going through the pandemic, I was looking at the people who actually went through the pandemic unscathed, but then we had other people that actually ended up in the ICU, ended up with long-haul COVID. What made the difference between these two populations? We talk about that in Thrive State. What I also talk about is actually this energetic state of being in the Thrive State doesn't only affect us as individuals. This energetic state that we are in is actually felt by others. And so when you learn to optimize your own state, it permeates into your families, into your teams, and if you belong to businesses and organizations, into them as well. Finally, I have an additional chapter on what it takes to create lasting change. We all know that at the beginning of every year, people set out to have goals that they want to achieve, whether it be losing weight, get into a relationship, 10x their income. They have all these goals, and then people seem to fall short on them. How come they can't follow through on them? Well, I explained that there's a part of our nervous system and programming called the default mode network. And living in that space is a bunch of old programming and beliefs that hold us back from actually doing and being who we are meant to be. And I give a very simple framework in the second edition of Thrive State as to how to overcome that. So this is all new content that is in the book. So if you haven't already, pick up a copy of the book at thrivestatebook.com. So my guest on today's podcast is known as the Father of Biohacking. He's the creator of Bulletproof Coffee and now has released a Danger Coffee. And on today's podcast, we talk about why Danger Coffee might be a new staple for your morning routine. In addition, we talk about his new book, Smarter, Not Harder. And there's a warning sign here. It says, may cause better results with less effort. Wouldn't we want to learn that? We talked about how putting in so much effort into our workouts might actually be counterproductive and how we could potentially get a lot more results doing very minimal efforts. So you're not going to want to miss that. The other thing we talk about on today's podcast is the 9th Annual Biohacking Conference. I'll be there actually leading a few sessions in the morning, how to get us in the Thrive State with breath, movement, and laughter. You can get your tickets at biohackingconference.com. It's happening in June in Orlando, and I would love to see many of you there. We talk about all those things and so much more, including the 5 to Thrive, which is always a fun segment on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome and enjoy this conversation with Dave Asprey. Welcome, Dave, back to the Thrive State podcast.
Good to see you, Kien.
All right, we play a segment on my show called the 5 to Thrive. 5 quick questions to be answered in less than a minute each to get to see where you're at. So question number 1 for you, Dave, is what's your favorite place to eat now that you've moved to Austin?
I found this place called Holy Cow Burger, WHOLLY, and they have single estate, grass-fed, grass-finished beef from a specific species of cow called Belted Galloway. And it looks like a convenience store, like not even a good convenience store. So you go in there and you're like, I needed a pack of Marlboros and some Coors. And instead they have like hand-cut fries cooked in good oils and grass-fed burgers. It's like the biggest deal ever. It's like $7.50 for a grass-fed, gluten-free, amazing hamburger.
That is amazing. Anything grass-fed less than $10 is super amazing. I wonder, have they been following your work, when they created that shop?
I think they were even at the same time I was starting, they just know good beef. But it's so funny because it's not like we're a special burger chain. They're like, no, like we're like a convenience store. We just don't do hot dogs. I don't know. Holy Cow is what it's called. It's awesome. It's worth coming to Austin just to see those guys.
Okay, I'm definitely going there next time. Question number 2 is the Biohacking Conference is returning to Orlando, BioConference 9. I will definitely be there leading a morning use session as well as an upgrade use session. So happy to see everybody there. What can people expect in this 9th Annual Biohacking Conference that's new and exciting to you, Dave?
Oh, man. This year we're expanding to 2 of the kind of evening dance parties. We have DJs and all. The idea is it's a community. You get to have fun. And that's the biggest thing. So you'll see more vendors than we've ever had. You'll see a bigger audience than we've ever had. So this conference, we're targeting about 4,000 people. Amazing. And it's neat because a couple smaller biohacking events have popped up around the planet. And it's just a different scale. When you have hundreds of companies and the founders of them, and you have thousands of people, there's an event for singles, a dating event, which is really cool. So you can meet your community. So it's become like a global phenomenon. It's hard to believe from 100 people to 4,000 people, but seeing you, seeing me on stage for quite a while, Dr. Gundry, Dr. Mercola, even people genetically engineering bacteria for probiotics for astronauts from Mars, like the cutting edge of what's happening to us.
Amazing. Which brings me to a very interesting question for number 3 is, now that you've been on the single scene for a while, Dave, have you started dating and exploring that new single life yet?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very much enjoying single life and not planning to end it anytime soon.
Okay, question number 4 is, if you were stuck in an elevator for 24 hours, Dave, and you only had one thing you could bring from the outside world while you're in there, what one thing would you choose?
I think a female Army Ranger with a survival kit.
Amazing. And last question here, to win all the marbles, Dave, if I had to pull you up on stage in a crowd of 20,000 people, and I gave you a karaoke song to sing, which song would you go for and why?
Well, I think humor is one of my love languages. So I would probably have to go with either like Baby Got Back or Like a Virgin. And I just have to feel into which one would be most inappropriate for me.
Oh, perfect. I'd like to see Like a Virgin at the 9th Annual Biohacking Conference. Dave, you win the 5 to Thrive once again. And great to have you on the show. The book, Smarter, Not Harder, The Biohacker's Guide to Getting the Body and Mind You Want, has already been out, making big waves. And we have all of your work. You've talked about diet. You've talked about brain. You've brought in people from the Titans. You've talked about fasting. Now there's this book, and I love the warning on the top here: may cause better results with less effort. What inspired you to write this book, Dave?
Well, I've written a book that's helped people lose millions of pounds, one that's helped people live longer, a really inclusive of everything anti-aging book, and even like the how do you intermittent fast, how do you make your brain work better. So what was left was, I keep seeing people say, you should eat your balanced meal, and you should make sure to get plenty of exercise. So I feel like I've already said there's no such thing as a balanced meal. That's dumb. But get X amount of exercise, it's stupid. And I say this because when I weighed 300 pounds, I went to the gym 6 days a week, 90 minutes every day, half weights, half cardio, religiously for 18 months. And I went on a low fat, low calorie diet. At the end of that time, I could max out all but 2 of the machines at the gym. Do you think my pants got any smaller? I still had a 46-inch waist. I still weighed 300 pounds and I was still fat. So obviously it's because I was eating too much lettuce, because I already got rid of the salad dressing and the chicken from the salad because they had calories. So many people, especially high performance people like you and me, like your listeners, we absorb this BS that says you have to work hard to get results, even though that's the opposite of the definition of getting results. Like if you snap your fingers and get results, those were really good. If you had to suffer for 20 years to get results, those actually weren't very good results. You're bad at getting results if that's what it takes. So I spent 702 hours in the gym and I didn't get results. And I know a lot of people now are feeling guilty about not going to the gym because there's $400 million a year worth of ghost gym memberships right now. So there's something we can do about that. So I went through and I asked for all the clients I've had at my human upgrade facility called Upgrade Labs. We opened this 8 years ago in Santa Monica. And thousands of celebrities, just normal people, have come through to upgrade themselves. I said, what matters to you? And it turns out there's 5 things. So I'm like, what if I wrote a book that taught people not how to be healthy? Because frankly, I think that's table stakes. We all want that. You want to be better than healthy, but you have to pick what you want to do. So people asked for, I just want my energy back and I want to lose weight. That's a very common one. Yeah. They also say, I want muscles, or I want cardio, or I want my brain to work again. This is actually where I was stuck early on in my life. But for the first time ever, more than weight loss, people are asking for the ability to manage stress. So I wrote a book that says, here's everything we know, all the technologies that help you achieve these goals in a tiny fraction of the time. I will show you in Smarter Not Harder how to do cardio in less time than it takes you to brush your teeth every week. That is 6 times more effective than going to a spin class 5 days a week. So literally, if you're even exercising as much as you think you should, you're probably not getting results. I'll show you how to exercise way less and get way more results. So many results that you can spend the extra time on meditating, on improving your brain, on getting other results that matter just as much. I want to set people free from guilt and shame over not exercising and say, of course, you don't exercise because your body knows it's not a good exchange, even if you want it to be. How about you make it a good exchange? So then you'll want to do it. It's pretty straightforward. And when people do it, it is life-changing.
It's a pretty awesome hack. I mean, it's an idea of really, getting into stress very, very quickly and then dropping into calm very quickly. And I wonder, when we look at animals in the wild, if we see like a gazelle grazing or something like that, and all of a sudden it gets chased by a tiger, it's not thinking about that tiger after the stress is gone. It's going back to grazing. Yeah. Is that where you found this hack?
It's definitely a part of it. And there's a new principle in Smarter Not Harder that applies to just about everything in your life. It's that to save energy, we make cognitive shortcuts. And the biggest shortcut is if something's good, more of it's better. So we say, all right, if exercise is good, more is better. But if you think the way your body thinks, not knowing that you have an intelligent brain in there, it thinks the same way as that zebra or gazelle or whatever. So if you go into a normal cardio exercise and you start climbing your first hill on a bike or on a treadmill, your body goes, I have no idea why that weird guy inside the brain is making me run, but there's probably a tiger. So it kicks off stress hormones and a stress response. In fact, adrenaline feels pretty good. It can be addictive. You maybe get some endorphins. But when you get to the top of the hill, instead of laying down the way a good animal would do, say, I got away from the tiger, instead you just slow down a little bit and then you climb another hill. Then you slow down, you climb another hill. And the body goes, for God's sake, I can't get away from this thing. It's hunting me. So it thinks you've been hunted for 45 minutes, when in reality, it was someone in spandex yelling at you to pedal faster, and then you feeling ashamed that you weren't pedaling as fast as that person next to you, so you just did it. And you congratulate yourself for being a good and moral person because you sweated. But the reality is your body just got a signal there's something hunting you. Oh, and you might be on a plant-based diet or just not have enough minerals or not enough protein. And then, oh my God, there's a tiger hunting me and there's a famine. And this is why 5 hours a week of cardio like that will give you a 2% improvement in your cardiovascular fitness after 2 months. Do what I'm saying in the book, 5 minutes, 3 times a week, get a 12% improvement. 6 times more results in 15 minutes instead of 5 hours.
That's pretty amazing.
That alone would pay for the book times 100. There's things like that for weights, for your brain, for meditation, even for reaching spiritual states faster. There's just a better way. So successful people don't work hard. Successful people use the right tools and then they work hard. And we have convinced ourselves that working hard is the trick. No, having the tools is the trick. Then working as little as possible to get results is the other trick. So you can spend the rest of the time with your kids.
I like that. Using more productive time. Now, one of the things that you mentioned in terms of really kind of getting your body in state to be able to do these things better is really setting the stage. And in the book, you talk about minerals. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I don't think people are aware, what minerals, tend to be missing in life, why they make such of a difference, and what's different about Danger Coffee.
This episode of the Thrive State podcast is brought to you by the Thrive State Accelerator. The Thrive State Accelerator is actually a home course that I developed using the exact same techniques I work with my celebrity clients, CEOs, and executives on how to get them to the Thrive State. The Thrive State Accelerator teaches you how to master your 7 bioenergetic elements. That's sleep, nutrition, movement, stress and emotional mastery, relationships, our thoughts and mindset, as well as purpose. In this Thrive State Accelerator, you're also going to get a bonus module on optimization. That's how I talk about supplementation, peptides, all the optimization techniques I use with my clients to get them to the Thrive State. Now, for some of you who are just joining us for the first time, you guys might be wondering, what is the Thrive State? Well, the Thrive State is actually the energy, the epigenetic environment we give to ourselves, telling our DNA how to act and how to respond. And if we want optimal health, longevity, and peak performance, if we can master these 7 bioenergetic elements, our ability to have those 3 things that we just said, optimal health, longevity, and peak performance, is at its greatest. And it also prevents you from getting chronic symptoms like brain fog, being overweight, feeling sluggish, acne, pain, all these chronic symptoms, as well as preventing you from getting chronic disease. So getting to that Thrive State is really getting to that state to master being that very best version of yourself so you could show up for you, for your family, for your business, everything that's important to you. So go ahead, check it out right now at kienfood.com/accelerator and use coupon code podcast25 for 25% off. Now back to the podcast.
It's funny because I've formulated supplements for cognitive function, nootropics. I've created large things for skin and all the sexy stuff, like the real exciting nootropics. But minerals are boring. Did you get your potassium? Did you get your zinc? So they're oftentimes overlooked. And we think, well, they must be in the plants, or I must be getting enough because I eat a balanced diet. But the reality is that our soil doesn't have minerals anymore because we've been growing food in it for a long time and we don't replenish the minerals. And the foods that you eat now that we didn't used to eat, like whole wheat, which wasn't a traditional food, or brown rice, or worst of all, oatmeal or oat milk, or even sometimes almonds or spinach and kale, these plants are stealing minerals from your body. At the same time, we spray our crops with things that bind up minerals so you can't use them. So imagine if you said, well, I ate 200 calories today, but you put it in a plastic bag and swallowed the bag. You'd be like, oh yeah, you ate the calories, but you didn't get to use them. Well, the minerals you're eating in your plants are encased in a way that your body can't use them. In fact, many of the most common healthy plant-based foods are sucking minerals out of your bones. And this is why vegans always have lower bone density. than people who eat animal protein and the minerals that come with animal foods that are not present in plants. And what I realized is we're all deficient. And if you want your exercise to count, you want your meditation to count, you want your effort to produce change, if you don't have minerals, it just doesn't work, because minerals make enzymes. Enzymes make proteins. It makes ATP for energy. So this is one of those boring things where if you don't have enough, effort doesn't count. And it turns out they're affordable and they're so broad spectrum that everything improves. So what I did is, as a part of the research for the book, I've got sort of 3 things that you need to do. One of them is you need to take a macro mineral, broad spectrum mineral supplement. And then you need to take vitamin DAKE, vitamin DAKE. And if you go to vitamindake.com, yep, it's a website I just put up so people can get it. It costs less than $20 a month for the normal dose. And vitamin DAKE are fat soluble vitamins that drive minerals to where they go in the body. So now you got your minerals. It's called Minerals 101. It's on the same website. And you go to vitamin DAKE, you take both of those. Now you've got your foundation. And then you drink Danger Coffee, which has the other dozens of trace minerals. These are trace minerals, tiny amounts that you would be getting if we still had healthy soil. So at this point, every mineral your body might possibly need is available in abundance. And then when you pick up something heavy, magically you can grow a muscle, you can make testosterone. But if you're lacking those minerals, you pick up something heavy, all you do is get stress hormones because you didn't have enough. So this is like cheap, it's effective. It's vitamindake.com. And it's amazing what happens when you do those 3 things: Minerals 101, Vitamin DAKE, and Danger Coffee. Danger Coffee has all the minerals added back in that you're not getting anymore.
I love how you use that conversation to show off your biceps 2 times, Dave.
See, I should have done this one because it has the caffeine tattoo on it.
You talk about anti-nutrients, and I was surprised reading this book, the amount of foods that you thought would be okay that's actually sucking nutrients out. And just so that the audience out there knows, what are some of the things or some of the foods people should be aware of? You've mentioned the kale, in many instances before. I was surprised to see spinach and nuts. What are some of these things that people should be aware of?
One of them that I like to think I've made a difference in raising awareness since I first brought it up on the Joe Rogan show years ago. When I'm like, hey man, those kale smoothies might not be helping your followers. It took Joe, I think, 7 years to say I quit drinking kale smoothies because of the oxalates. So oxalic acid is a plant defense compound that binds to calcium in your blood and forms razor sharp microcrystals that either give you gout, kidney stones, or vulvodynia. When
did you last have that, Dave?
I had vulvodynia just the other week. And for listeners, you have to have vulva to have vulvodynia, but it's a really painful condition. So people are trying to get healthier. They're spending $18 on a kale spinach juice, and it's making their conditions worse. They're getting eczema, they're getting joint pain, they're getting brain fog. And I know I was a raw vegan. I did this more than anyone listening probably. So that's one thing that steals calcium and zinc. But it turns out almonds have a meaningful amount of this. Sweet potatoes do too, if you're getting too much of it. So what you can do is you can have some amount of it, but you don't want to take the richest foods like beets or beetroots and then punch yourself in the kidneys over and over, because it will deplete your minerals. You won't like it. But worst of all is something that no one talks about. It's called phytase. This comes from whole, raw nuts, seeds, and grains. For the most part, it's such a problem that when we feed those things to animals, ranchers will measure the amount of phytic acid in the food, even though cows and sheep and things they have 3 stomachs, so they can get rid of this toxic compound. They still can eat too much. So they give them extra enzymes to make it so they can eat even more of these foods. When we eat whole wheat or oatmeal or oat milk or handfuls of nuts with seeds every day, which is kind of what they told us was healthy, well, it sucks minerals out of your body. Phytic acid stops you from being able to absorb them, even in your supplements. And if you have them in your bones, have them in your cells, it'll pull them out of your cells. So it's actually something that you have to limit in your diet. If you're starving to death, whole wheat is great. But as a health food, it creates weakness over time. So we need to just realize that and eat foods lower in phytic acid and take more minerals, and then your bone density gets stronger. As you age, Breaking your hips is one of the things that is a common cause of death. Well, don't have bones that break would be a really good strategy to live a long time. I had bone surgery to correct a yoga injury last year. The doctor went in, I was awake for this because it was a local anesthetic thing, but he was rebuilding the joint in my toe. And I heard the bone saw slow down, and he looks at the nurse and goes, "What the hell?" He goes, "Is this guy human? I've never seen bone density like this." And he said, "Dave, I operated on someone half your age and their bones cut like butter. Like, what are you doing?" "I have enough minerals in my diet. I exercise 15 or 20 minutes a week. And I'm 8% body fat. And I can't believe it's possible. It's because I figured out if I have minerals present and I have my vitamin DAKE present, my body will respond to exercise better. I don't eat the things that make me weak. I eat things that make me strong. I get extra minerals, and then I do a small amount of work that puts a signal into the body that causes the body to rapidly change."
That's amazing. It's really setting the stage, making sure your meat operating system has the tools to actually work smarter, not harder.
Love it.
You know, we know you go into hacks with strength and cardiovascular fitness, energy levels and metabolism, brain fitness, resilience, recovery, all those things. Are there things that we know all those things you offer in your Upgrade Labs, which I'd love for you to talk about, but are there also some hacks that just people could do on their own?
Oh, yeah. So I got those 5 buckets from Upgrade Labs. By the way, Upgrade Labs is probably opening in your neighborhood. You can go to ownandupgradelabs.com and open a franchise. So we're opening more than a dozen across the country right now, and more people are signing on every day. Say, "Oh, I want one in my neighborhood. Like, I'm gonna become an entrepreneur." So let's say you don't have one of those, or you just don't want to be a member. Well, every single hack in the book, I tell you the principle of it. I tell you the free version. I tell you it costs $50 or a small amount of money version. And then I say, here's what the crazy billionaires are doing. And then that's what I put in Upgrade Labs.
Well, you don't have to be a billionaire to actually be a member of Upgrade Labs.
Well, that's the idea. I built the first Upgrade Labs in my basement, and it cost $1 million for all that stuff. And I proved it worked. I figured it out, and I used it to heal myself and then to upgrade myself, and said, I want to bring this to the community. That's why the first one opened, the first biohacking center ever. I invented this idea. It was opened under Arnold Schwarzenegger's office about 8 years ago in Santa Monica, and it's still open today. And that became the blueprint for the franchise.
Oh, that's amazing. Super excited to see more Upgrade Labs all over the US. Is there a plan to go international?
Absolutely. We're talking with several different countries about countrywide licenses. So happy to do that when the right partners are in place.
Oh, that's beautiful. And, lastly, the conference, the 9th Annual Biohacking Conference happening in Orlando this year. I'll be leading a few sessions down there as well. How do people find out a little bit more? Are there still tickets left? Because I remember the Beverly Hills, thing that I keynoted last year was sold out. And I know some people that wanted to go that were pretty up there people that couldn't go.
Your keynote was super popular, which is why I'm happy you're leading some sessions this year. We could have had 1,000 more people at the Beverly Hilton than would fit in the hotel. Yeah. It got to the point where I had billionaires texting me and who don't normally text me. And I'm like, look, man, you could be the reincarnated, Queen of England, and I just simply don't have a fire department ability to let you in. And I'm really sorry. So this year, there will not be a problem. We put this at a place where we should have more than 200,000 square feet of space. And we can go bigger if we need to. So this time, if you want to come, the hotel is much more affordable. You can bring your family. It's there in Orlando, so there's lots to do. And it's meant to be more affordable, and it's going to be bigger and better and more fun than any one I've ever done out of 9 years of doing this.
That's amazing. And
biohackingconference.com is the URL. There are still tickets left. There are a few discounted tickets still left. As we start getting closer to our planned capacity, the price goes up closer into the event. So if you just say, hey, I want to go there, I want to bring my family, do it. Sign up now, biohackingconference.com. It'll be a chance to meet people you would never even imagine exist.
That's beautiful. I'm pretty sure we've already listed a lot of websites, but where do people, of the people who are living in a shell right now that doesn't know Dave Asprey, how do people find out more about your work?
Yeah, if you just go to daveasprey.com, you'll find the links to the podcast there. 300 million downloads, Webby Award winning, interviewed more than 1,000 people who are moving the needle for us as human beings, evolving and improving ourselves. And you'll find all the products, the brain upgrade facilities, 40 years in, and all the fun stuff. Like, that's what it's all about. It's about playing.
With somebody who's played so much in the biohacking space, and I know I've asked you this several times, and you've given me different answers. I wonder what your answer is today. What has been your best medicine?
Now you have me wondering what I said the other times.
I don't remember either, but I know there were different answers.
You know, if we're going to talk in terms of medicine, you have to talk about in terms of goals. Yeah. I don't look at medicine as something that you always use for fixing something broken or even for healing something that's sick. Sometimes it's just for getting to the next level. And that's a shamanic definition of medicine, right? So one of the things that I'm going to talk about head on at the conference this year is that we have different things that nourish us. We know that there's like air and food and sleep and community. But I have a couple speakers coming in to talk about relationship issues, things like libido, even things like the consciousness and spiritual side of sex. So that'll be there at the conference, front and center. So there will be an extremely interesting fireside chat on stage with a special guest. We're going to that side of it, because I've addressed fear in my books, How to Hack It, and food. But the other F word in my teachings that drives our meat operating system, it's the other F word. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I tend to
fertility. That's what you were thinking.
Yeah, of course.
So that one. So we're going to talk about that, not in a raunchy way at all, but just in a scientific way, in a curious way, and also just recognize that that's a spiritual and important part of being human, and it's one of the things in your life that you can use to change your state. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Well, Dave, thank you again for being on the Thrive State podcast. I can't wait to see you in June. The book, again, is A Smarter, Not Harder. You guys need to get yourself a copy. Dave, thanks again for being on the Thrive State podcast.
Ken, I'm looking forward to your talk at the conference. The audience loves you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Thrive State podcast. And if this podcast is bringing a lot of value to you, if you find that your life is just improving with this podcast, that your life is getting to the next level, please consider supporting it. And here's a few ways you can do so. You can do so by liking this video and commenting on this video, and also sharing this video with your friends and family. Another thing you can do is go to ratethispodcast.com/ThriveState. Go ahead and leave us a 5-star review there. It will really, really help this show grow. And this will give me more time so that I could actually give more content to you, just like you got in this episode. And if you haven't already picked up a copy of my book, Thrive State, Your Blueprint for Optimal Health, Longevity, and Peak Performance, you can pick it up now. It became a #1 new release in longevity. Go to thrivestatebook.com. And if you enjoy the book, please consider leaving us a review as well. And the last thing you can do, if you're liking everything here and you want to work more closely with me as well as my team to get you into the Thrive State, go to kienvu.com/accelerator and consider joining the home course, the Thrive State Accelerator. It's really the course that I use. It's the concepts that I use personally when I work with CEOs, celebrities, and my high-profile clients to get them to the Thrive State. Again, the Thrive State Accelerator at kienvu.com/accelerator. And because you're a listener of this podcast, I want you to save 25% by using the coupon code podcast25. I hope we continue to give value to you. And remember always, you are your best medicine.